Jesus is the peacemaker. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is part number 3 of our 5-part series on horizontal reconciliation. And the good news of the gospel is that at the center of it all, you find Jesus. And what makes Jesus different than any other purported savior or answer or even God on earth is the fact that he brings peace. Jesus is and was and will always be a peacemaker. In different walks of what we call faiths or in different areas of belief, there are philosophies or ideologies that are subscribed to through prophets or through higher ups or through what we may call evolved beings to then come back to us mortals in this day and age to show us what we should and should not do. Now, if you're a Christian, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you're not, you do understand. And even as a Christian, and particularly as a Christian, we can understand that what we do and how we ought to practice, it's the result of the peacemaker. Jesus was a teacher of peace. This is not a theological argument. This is helping us to realize that if he is a peacemaker, and if I am following him, what other path could I follow other than that which is blazed or trailed by the peacemaker? In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 17, it says, he came and preached peace to you, which were far off, and to them that were nigh. So to those who are way out, we talked about this in the previous study, how the righteousness of God has to exceed the wretchedness of man in order to reach man. He came and preached peace. And well, on one level, God preached peace by sending his son, and then Christ literally preached peace when he walked after he had been sent. So you see this redounding message of peace, of being good, of being at one. That's who Jesus was, and that's what makes Christianity so much different than any other faith, because at the heart of it is a heart of peace. Not retribution, not revenge, not even justice alone. The only thing greater than God's justice is his mercy. If you don't believe it, you better, because that's the only reason you can watch this video today. It is his mercy, which said, I will not give them what they deserve. And because of that, it now leaves room for grace. And I will give them my son, the very thing, grace being God giving us then what we don't deserve. When you go to Ephesians chapter 2, you see that Christ came and preached. Well, you see it actually practiced in John 14. Peace, he says, I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Peace I leave with you. It's very easy for Christ to leave peace because that's what he had. If you are going somewhere and you dine and you're spending time with family or friends and you leave a tip, you're leaving behind a portion of the resources that you already have. Christ could not leave something that he didn't have. He had it, and he had so much he could leave some behind and still not lose his own. That's what Christ practiced. And this is where, as we're going to see going forward in this series, where he wants us to play in, where we don't leave behind wreckages, we don't leave behind shadows or shade, but we leave behind tips of peace. Never all the portion that we have, so we leave our peace on the table and go act the fool when we leave, but we leave a little bit behind as he's constantly sourcing us. But wait a minute, going forward, let me not run ahead. Let's finish this thought out. Jesus is a preacher of peace because in Isaiah, when he's described, even before he comes onto the scene in this earth, he's described and prophesied as a child. Unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. This is who Jesus was, and it's who he is. He was this extension, this outreach, this connective port to us to recognize that all that God was, that is who Jesus was going to be. And Jesus now comes offering the peace that a holy God would love to bring to us, but were he to bring it to us, it would just consume us. So he had to find a means to package this essence of who he was and say, man, how can I get this? Not just to get them out of their mess, but then to get them to be back the way I intended them to be. That's why he gave us his son, to connect between heaven and earth and to allow us now to experience what heaven will be like even here on earth. That's what Christ brought. That's the legacy that he leaves behind. And it is one of those distinctive tenets. It's one of those scents. You know, when you go certain places, you eat certain kinds of cuisine, you expect to smell certain smells. Some cuisine, you expect to smell a curry. Some cuisine, you expect to smell garlic. Some cuisine, you get my point, right? Well, the Christian essence, one of the smells that you should smell to know, man, Jesus was in this place, is peace. Therefore, if that's one of the essences that's left behind when Christ leaves, what should be the essence that a Christian leaves behind? We're going to stop here. By God's grace, we'll dig deeper into this and get to it in our next study. But in the meantime, know that you got a God of peace. So if you've made a mistake, and if you failed or faulted in any way, his thoughts towards you are still peace. Remember, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. And if that's the case for us, don't you think God can cope with your storm? And in that storm, bring you a gospel or a love or a hope of peace. Even you, yes, us as sinners, he's offering us peace.